Hey everybody, welcome to GGdigsite. This video we're going to talk about another small box game that is something that I've really been excited about and is a lot of fun for me. It is something that is pretty high strategy and can add some interesting elements to a game night if you have a group that interacts really well together. Today's game is The Crew, Quest for Planet 9. This is a game by Kosmos Games, and the author is Thomas Singh. The thing about this game, this is a trick-taking game, and you are on a crew of 3 to 5 players. It says ages 10 and up with a play time of 20 minutes. I think that's probably a little generous. You'd have a hard time achieving some of the things in this with a 10-year-old, I would think. This is a pretty, heavy, potentially heavy thinking game. Not really, the most ridiculous strategy or anything like that, but there's a lot of thinking that goes on. You got to understand how a trick-taking game works. For those of you that might not understand exactly what that means, it's similar to dominoes or spades, things like that, where basically you're going to play a hand, and there are the necessity to follow suits and trumps and things like that, and ultimately someone's going to win. The difference is you're trying to take tricks strategically rather than just trying to win outright. So let's take a look inside. Very small box, like I said. Inside you've got some small cards and some bigger cards. There's some tokens that are that indicate various different modes of the game, or who is the player that is up, things that are going on, that are going to be useful through the different parts and the different scenarios. Now, the small cards, they look similar to playing cards. They're going to have a number, which is just their value, and then their color is relevant. And they're going to have a larger set of cards, which is once again, colored and numbered, and they all have different effects that you play from your hand. Now, with this, right, just like a traditional playing card, you would be trying to play a suit, which in this case is a color, right, of a particular number. And if you're trying to win, you would play higher or play a trump. And then if you're trying not to win, you would want to play something lower, or maybe of the wrong suit, so that you can't win. Now, there's a lot of trick-taking games out there that are really simple. One of the most popular domino games around here is 42, and there's a lot of people that are familiar with the concept of taking tricks. The difference is in the writing. So you have a rule book here that is just kind of your standard rules, but then when you get to the point you're ready to play, you flip it over and you have a logbook in the back. And the logbook both gives you scenarios to play, but also gives you a little bit of story. So I think this is really interesting, adds a lot of flavor to the game in terms of, for example, here on scenario 5, you've celebrated too soon. One of you is sick in bed. After everyone has looked at his or her cards, your commander asks everyone how he or she feels. It may only be answered with good or bad. The commander then decides who is ill, and that sick crew member must not win any tricks. So in that scenario, you can only use the words good or bad to indicate whether or not you think you can lose. And if you think you can lose, you're trying to communicate that to your commander, who then has to make a choice. And the ultimate goal is you can't win a single trick. Other things get more complicated as you go down the line, like once you get into the later ones. The caveat here is before you select the task cards, you can swap the position of 2 task tokens, decide together, but do not reveal anything about your own cards. So if things are moving around, you're making choices without any informed decisions. The key thing to note here is you're really very limited in the scenarios in which you can actually speak to each other. Presumably you're in space, there's a lack of communication, and the only type of communication really is the ability to identify one thing that you have in your hand at some point in the game for each turn, and then the ability to play what you've got and kind of give information through your play. So this is probably not a game you would want to play on a first game night with people who are just kind of getting to know each other. But if you have a well-established group and you've kind of done a lot of different things, and you've tried a lot of different things, this is an interesting way to get a group of 4 or 5 people together and really just almost kind of sit in thought, and it puts you in this, in this scenario of we've got this really tense situation. And it's kind of quiet. And we're not able to communicate. How are we going to get this done? Now you might notice these boxes here. Something that's really interesting is there's a challenge built in, right? So there's a place for you to identify your crew, and each time that you attempt and fail, there's a place for you to mark how many times you actually failed it. So this is not intended to be a one and done. It's definitely not intended for you to be able to play straight through unless you have a very, very, very skilled group, particularly at kind of intuitively knowing what's going on. A lot of fun, a lot of flavor, an interesting theme, just all around. If you're looking for a small box game that's not crazy expensive, gonna add a bunch of value, not take up a lot of shelf space, you can just throw it in a bag and go and play it with your friends. I think this is a great place to go. They have a couple, they have at least one expansion that's come out that I haven't played yet, but it's definitely something that I'm interested in the future. Would highly recommend this to well-established game groups or people who like trick-taking games or just want to try something completely different. But once again, this is the crew. It is 3 to 5 players, and you can pick this up and try it out for yourself if it's something you're interested in. Appreciate you being here and watching the video. Always appreciate a like and a subscribe if you feel so inclined. Otherwise, we will see you in the next one. GG. Thanks.